Hey there, movie reviewer next door here, and I watched this. Movie for today is The Fraternity from 2002, directed by Sidney J. Furie. And if the colored lights aren't as colored, it's because I'm doing this in the daytime and there's light. So, starring Robin Dunn, Gianpaolo Venuta, Malin Ackerman, and Treat Williams. Now in this film, some students at Runcie Prep School form an elite club. The group is implicated in a cheating scandal and one of the club members dies mysteriously. Another member decides to try and discover the dangerous truth about Runcie. So, what did I think of this film? Well, I didn't like it. Now, here's the thing with this film. I give it a 4 because at least the film has... It at least looks like a film at times. The score isn't the greatest, but it looks like a film. It's not like amateurs made this. Sidney J. Furie directed this, and I'll talk about him in just a second. Let me get to the cast, though. Robin Dunn as Alex Desno. He's a student at this prep school. He's fine. He's not the issue here. I've never seen him in a film before. Apparently he's in The Big Hit, which I don't remember much about. I think I saw that a while ago. I didn't review it because it was before I was reviewing. A lot of the movies I've seen were before I was reviewing. But, yeah, I don't mind him in this role. I don't know if he's full leading man material. For this type of movie, he's fine, though. Gianpaolo Venuta as Justin Harlow. He's a member of the Klan. He hasn't been in a ton of films. Here on Letterboxd it lists he's in 14 films. I've seen him in one of them called Time of Death, which starred Kathleen Robertson, who, if that name seems familiar, you may remember her. Right here, that's her. You may remember her from Scary Movie 2, which I don't remember from Scary Movie 2. I remember her from was some Canadian thing she was in. I can't remember the name of it right now. But she's a Canadian actress. But Gianpaolo Venuta, he was like her partner in that film. It was kind of a police procedural thing. It was fine. It was like a 60-minute episode of a show turned into an hour and a half TV movie. It was fine. He's all right here. Malin Ackerman in a very early role for her as Tess. She's okay. There's not much that happens with her character. Also, I got redder, so I guess this will work, even though it'll be blown out as shit on my face. She's fine. And Treat Williams as Spencer Runcie, who is the headmaster of this academy. He is the best actor in the film. Though the acting in the film isn't really the issue I have with it. I guess I'll just get right into it. This film is not well paced. It is... Sorry if you keep hearing me click my pen. Because this film sends my ADHD ticks off. Because the entire movie I was just going like this. I was going... I kept doing that. I kept looking at my phone. Which I do look at my phone sometimes to like write down things. But for this film I barely had a written review. Because there's not much to talk about other than the ending. And because of that, I am going to make this video a spoiler review. At the closer to the second half of the review, I will announce when I'm going to the spoilers, but I'll give like my final thoughts on the film right before I do that. But I've seen people compare this to The Skulls, which I've never seen those films. Apparently, Robin Dunn was the star of The Skulls 2. I just know the first film starred Joshua Jackson and Paul Walker, Leslie Bibb, Craig T. Nelson, Christopher McDonald. Really great actors there. I've just never seen it. I heard mixed things about it. But there are people saying this is a low rent version of The Skulls, like about like a fraternity or like a kind of cultish group within a prep school, whatever. I haven't seen it, so I can't say anything towards that or against it. This feels like a thriller that would have been made in the 70s, if that makes sense. And not in a good way, because there are many thrillers from the 70s that I love. I love the original Dirty Harry. I love McHugh. I know those are kind of similar because McHugh was supposed to be Dirty Harry, John Wayne was supposed to be Dirty Harry, whatever. Taking of Pelham 123, I like that film. There are issues, I think, with pacing and shit in that movie, but still. But I do like quite a few 70s thrillers. I'm not a big fan of French Connection, though. Maybe I'll watch the sequel. I don't know. I've heard from some people that it's better. It might be more for me. But this film is the worst part of those, where it's not so much a thriller and it's more of a really boring drama with a quote-unquote shocking twist. Now, this film didn't market itself on that twist. I don't really know anything about the marketing. I just knew that Treat Williams' name is plastered all over every poster online of this film as if he's the star. He is not. He's in the film maybe 15 minutes. He plays a big part in the story, don't get me wrong. But saying he is the star is a lie. It is Robin Dunn, and probably because Robin Dunn hasn't been in a lot of, like, really, like, well-known films, other than The Big Hit, which was kind of more of a cult classic type of thing. Because back when it came out, it was kind of, like, iffy. But still, this is one of those films, it takes, like, halfway through for the whole story to actually kick off. And constantly, it feels like this movie should have ended. There's a part at like an hour and 15 minutes into the film where they're like, oh, we thought we caught the killer. And then you're like, oh, this looks like a shot where it should be ending. No, there's 20 minutes left. There's a bit later where it feels like it should have ended. And then at the very end, it feels like it should have ended. Like, it's one of those movies. Now, if you are ADHD like I am, and you have issues with not being able to sit still if something isn't entertaining, you're not going to make it through this movie. The only reason I give it a 4 out of 10 is Treat Williams is not a bad actor. He does the best he can with this role, especially with what they ask him to do. And this, again, looks like not a, like, theater level film. It does have its issues with set design at times. The morgue especially looks quite cheap. It looks about on the same production value quality of the Substitute sequels. At least Substitute 3 and 4. Because Substitute 2 looked a bit more polished than the third and fourth, even though the fourth was my favorite of the sequels. And the second was a TV movie, I think for like Cinemax or something like that. One of those paid, like, premium movie channels. But this feels on the same level as like Substitute 3 and 4 set design wise, where the set design isn't really distracting, but if you're like me and you obsess over like small details at times, you might get a bit, like, that doesn't look the greatest. They could have put a few more people in that set, a few more extras in that set or something, or a few more items. And but the thing that's really sad about this movie is it's directed by Sidney J. Furie, who I haven't seen a ton of his films. I do know of him, though. He directed The Entity with Barbara Hershey and Ron Silver about the woman who was sexually abused by the ghost. That's a real story. Taking of Beverly Hills, Ypres File, Iron Eagle, which is still not on Blu-ray, I don't think. Superman 4 Quest for Peace. A lot of people shit on him just for that. Just the same way that people shit on what's his name that did Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, when he's done so many other excellent films like Flatliners, Phone Booth. A lot of people love 8mm. I haven't seen it yet. But Sidney J. Furie, a couple movies that I have seen from him were Top of the World and Detention with Dolph Lundgren, which he's worked with Dolph Lundgren, I think, twice. But Detention was alright. I'd probably have to give it another chance. It was kind of a Die Hard in a high school type of movie. People would probably shit on it nowadays. They'll probably say it's better than Run, Hide, Fight. I don't agree. And Top of the World was kind of a like Die Hard in Las Vegas type of thing. And my main issues with that film wasn't with the production, because the production was really slick actually, and the action was actually very involving, lots of explosions, nice gunfights. My issue was with the tone, as the film seemed to have a very weird, dark sense of humor, and I love dark humor. Don't get me wrong, I am not offended by shit. I just don't think it fit in that type of story. So, that's kind of what threw me off, but I like this director. I think he has made some interesting films. This just isn't one of them. And I'll get to... It's all about... This whole film is about, like, a murder mystery of, like, one of the kids in this group. He's kind of shy, and he ends up being murdered. Or he ends up dying after being caught seeing the headmaster with a woman. And they basically have... Robin Dunn's character tries to find out what happened to him, who killed him, if he was killed, and he starts being, like, terrorized by somebody. And just... This film, the issue with this film, the main issue with this film's story is that in order for the plot to make sense, you'd actually have to, you know, build up the characters, and the character that ends up being the killer is not built up at all. So it's technically a twist, like it's not who you'd expect, but it's because this character only appeared in maybe one or two scenes. The main scene that I'm thinking of is the only scene I can think of, is the only one I remember him being in, and then later it's like, oh yeah, he's the killer, even though he never appears in the film until this twist ending. And the twist ending, I'm gonna give my final thoughts before I go into spoilers, but like, I don't recommend this film. If you're into bad films and you can laugh at this, like have a drink with friends, sure, go ahead. It's 97 minutes. It's not like a super long film. But yeah. This is where I have to get into spoilers. So I'm just writing down where I'm going to put the timestamp. So, if you immediately from my description thought, oh yeah, the headmaster is going to have something to do with it, you'd be right. Because the dangerous truth about Runcie. But he's not... But, like, I mean, everybody should have known he was part of it. But the guy who ends up being the killer is frickin' Smitty Jacobson, played by Aaron Poole. And it turns out the woman that Marcus Faulkner saw in Treat Williams, or in Spencer Runcie's window dancing, that turned around and saw him, was a man. It was Smitty dressed in drag. Now, I laughed my ass off when I saw this, because I went back to the scene before where they're like they're conveniently hiding the face of this woman, and I was like, that's a woman though. Who is that woman supposed to be? Because we later find out that the bra and panties that were found at the scene don't fit Malin Ackerman's character Tess. So there's no other women on this campus other than her. And I don't even know if she's on campus. They never really explain where she lives. But you expect me. Well, when I went back to that scene, it is a woman with actual boobs. You know, you can tell when it's an actual woman. There's actual boobs in the bra. And then it cuts to the next scene where Marcus goes out into the snow and looks into the window. And it's clearly a different person. And they never explain this. So it's on purpose meant to be a twist. But they lie to you. Just like they did in this movie The Lie, where they're like, oh, the Joey King's friend isn't dead. But they literally show us a scene earlier of someone dreaming and seeing her dead body. That is lying to the audience. That is what this film does. And this is my main issue with this type of twist, other than they don't build up Smitty as a character. He barely feels like a character. He was in like one scene before. And then they're talking about like, oh, they say that if anybody heard that I was gay, I would be ruined, so I had to kill Marcus. It just makes no sense. It's ridiculous. It's not a well done twist. And it turns out Treat Williams, I guess they're insinuating Treat Williams banged him. I don't know. I really don't care. I don't like it when movies just feel the need to have a twist just to have a twist. But yeah, I don't know what else to say about this movie. It sucks. Again, only watch it if you want to experience how stupid that twist is. But yeah, pros: film looks okay. Given it was Sidney J. Furie that made it, this looks disappointingly flat as a film. Treat Williams isn't bad. Cons pretty much everything else. But yeah. Hope you like my review of The Fraternity. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever. And movie reviewer next door out.